When my mother pointed at the door and said, "You're just wasting space here," I didn't cry in front of her. I didn't argue. I packed 2 bags, walked out of the house I had spent years helping to maintain, and disappeared from their lives. That same week, my parents gave my sister $1 million to start her dream business, while I was told I had no future. 5 years later, that business collapsed, my sister moved back home, and my mother drove past a beachfront villa with my name on the gate. That's when everything changed. My name is Natalie Carter. I was 31 years old when my mother finally said out loud what she had been showing me my whole life. "You're just wasting space here." She said it in the middle of our living room, with one hand on her hip and the other pointing toward the front door like I was not her daughter, but a box she wanted removed before guests arrived. The strange part was, I had just come home with groceries. 2 heavy bags in each hand. Milk, bread, vegetables, coffee, my father's blood pressure medication, and my mother's favorite tea. I had paid for all of it from my own paycheck, like I had been doing for years. Not because anyone asked nicely. Not because anyone thanked me. But because that house had trained me to believe my value came from being useful. My younger sister, Vanessa, never had that problem. Vanessa could forget birthdays, quit jobs, crash cars, max out credit cards, and somehow my parents would still call it finding herself. If I made one mistake, it became a lecture about responsibility. If Vanessa made 10, it became a prayer circle about protecting her dreams. That night, when I walked into the dining room, everyone was smiling. My father had opened a bottle of expensive champagne. My mother had set out the good plates. Vanessa sat at the head of the table, wearing a silk blouse, gold earrings, and the kind of smile people wear when they have already won before the game starts. "Natalie," my mother said, almost annoyed that I had interrupted the celebration. "Put the groceries in the kitchen. We have news." I carried the bags to the counter, washed my hands, and came back. Vanessa lifted her glass first. "Mom and Dad are investing in me," she said proudly. $1 million. For a second, I thought I had heard her wrong. 1 million? I asked. My father nodded, smiling like he had just made the smartest business decision of his life. "Your sister is starting her wellness brand. Luxury retreats, skincare, online coaching, lifestyle events. It has real potential." Vanessa opened her laptop and showed me a slideshow full of beige logos, beach photos, candles, and quotes about abundance. There were no real numbers. No customer research. No budget breakdown. Just pretty fonts and expensive dreams. I stare at the screen, remembering the business plan I had written 3 years earlier. A coastal property management service. Real data. Real clients. Real market research. I had shown it to my parents once, hoping they might believe in me for 5 minutes. My mother had laughed and said, "That's too big for you." Now Vanessa had a mood board, and somehow it was worth $1 million. I kept my voice calm. "When I brought you my plan, you said it was unrealistic." My mother's smile disappeared. "Don't start," she said. "I'm not starting anything. I'm just asking why her dream gets $1 million and mine got mocked." Vanessa rolled her eyes. "Because I have vision, Natalie. You always think small." My father sighed like I was embarrassing everyone. "This is exactly why we didn't tell you earlier. You turn everything into a competition." I looked at him, then at my mother. "I've helped pay bills in this house for years. I buy groceries. I run errands. I help with repairs. I just thought maybe that counted for something." My mother stood up slowly. "It counts as you doing what you should do," she said. "You live here. I live here because you asked me to stay after Dad's surgery. And now we don't need that kind of energy around Vanessa," she snapped. "She needs peace, focus, support, not jealousy sitting at the dinner table." The room went quiet. Vanessa looked down, but she was smiling. That tiny smile hurt more than the words. I said, "So what are you saying?" My mother walked to the front door and opened it. "I'm saying you're just wasting space here." For a moment, everything inside me went still. Not broken, not angry, just silent. I looked at the groceries on the counter, the medication, the tea. The food I had bought for people who could hand my sister $1 million but could not give me basic respect. Then I nodded. Okay, I said. My mother blinked, like she expected a fight. But I didn't give her one. I went upstairs to my room and packed 2 bags. Clothes, documents, my old laptop, a few photos, and the blue folder they had laughed at years ago. My business plan. When I came back down, Vanessa was leaning against the staircase. Don't worry, Mom, she said, loud enough for me to hear. She'll be back in a month. I stopped at the door and looked at the house one last time. Then I walked out quietly, promising myself one thing. I would never come back needing them. The first place I slept after leaving my parents' house was not inspiring. It was a tiny rented room above a laundromat on the edge of town. The walls were thin, the carpet smelled like detergent, and every night I could hear washing machines shaking beneath my floor like thunder. My bed was a used mattress. My desk was a folding table. My closet was one plastic rack that leaned to the left no matter how many times I adjusted it. But it was mine. No one opened my door to remind me I was a burden. No one compared me to Vanessa. No one looked at the groceries I bought and acted like I had done nothing. For the first time in years, the silence belonged to me. That first month was brutal. I worked my regular office job during the day, then cleaned vacation rentals at night for extra money. On weekends, I drove to coastal neighborhoods and wrote down the names of properties, sitting empty. Beautiful beach houses with dusty windows, neglected gardens, and rental signs that looked faded from the sun. Every time I saw one, I thought about the blue folder in my bag. My coastal property management plan. The same plan my mother had laughed at. The idea was simple. Wealthy owners had beach homes they rarely visited. Many wanted rental income, but they didn't want to deal with guests, cleaning, repairs, photos, bookings, or complaints. I could handle all of it. Professional service. Honest reports. Better marketing. Better income. But having a good idea and getting people to trust you are 2 different things. The first property owner I called hung up after 30 seconds. The second said, "You sound too young." The third asked if my father owned the business. I sat in my car afterward, gripping the steering wheel, trying not to cry. I wanted to call home. Not because I missed being insulted, but because some old part of me still wanted my mother to say, "Come back. We were wrong." She never called. Not once. So, I stopped waiting. I studied at night until my eyes burned. Real estate rules. Short-term rental laws. Hospitality standards. Pricing systems. Guest psychology. Basic repairs. Marketing. Photography. Accounting. Every weakness I had, I turned into homework. 3 months later, I got my first real chance. Her name was Mrs. Bellamy, a widow in her 70s who owned a small beach cottage her husband had built before he passed. She was tired of renters damaging things and agencies ignoring her calls. I met her at the cottage, wearing the only blazer I owned, carrying printed reports, sample listings, and a cleaning checklist I had made myself. She looked at me for a long time and said, "You're serious about this, aren't you?" "Yes, ma'am," I said. "I have to be." She gave me 1 summer. I treated that little cottage like it was a 5-star resort. I replaced cheap photos with warm sunset pictures. I rewrote the listing. I answered every guest message within minutes. I hired reliable cleaners, checked every room myself, and sent Mrs. Bellamy weekly reports with receipts attached. By the end of that summer, her rental income had doubled. She cried when I showed her the numbers. Then she gave my name to 2 friends. 2 homes became 5. 5 became 12. I quit my office job after 18 months, terrified but ready. I hired my first employee, then my second. We wore simple uniforms, answered calls professionally, and built a reputation for doing exactly what we promised. I didn't post flashy pictures online. I didn't brag. I didn't want my family watching. But I heard about Vanessa. Her $1 million wellness brand had launched with champagne, influencers, and a rented ballroom. She spent thousands on gold packaging before she had loyal customers. She hired friends who didn't work, fired staff who questioned her, and blamed negative energy when sales dropped. My parents kept defending her. "It's just a rough market," relatives said. I said nothing. By year 3, My company was managing 28 coastal properties. By year 4, I had bought my first small rental. By year 5, I signed the papers for a beachfront villa with white stone walls, wide glass windows, and a gate with my full name on the ownership plate. Natalie Carter. The day I moved in, I stood barefoot on the balcony, listening to the ocean. I did not feel rich. I felt safe. Then one afternoon, while I was drinking coffee and reviewing guest bookings, a familiar black car slowed outside my gate. My mother's car, and Vanessa was sitting beside her. For a few seconds, I didn't move. I stood on my balcony with my coffee cooling in my hand, staring down at the black car parked outside my gate. I knew that car. I had washed that car in my parents' driveway more times than I could count while Vanessa sat inside the house scrolling on her phone. My mother was behind the wheel. Vanessa was in the passenger seat. At first, I thought maybe they were lost. Maybe they had taken the wrong road along the coast and ended up near my street by accident. But then Vanessa leaned forward, squinting at the gate, at the black metal plate. Natalie Carter. Her face changed. I saw it happen from above. The confusion first, then disbelief, then something sharper, something ugly. She pointed at the nameplate and said something to my mother. My mother turned her head slowly toward the villa, toward the windows, toward the balcony. Then she saw me. 5 years disappeared in one breath. My mother stepped out of the car like her legs were not working properly. Vanessa got out right after her, staring at the house as if I had stolen it from her personally. "This is yours," Vanessa shouted from outside the gate. I didn't answer right away. I walked downstairs slowly, not because I was scared, but because I wanted control over every step. I had imagined this moment before, usually on hard nights when I was eating cheap noodles in that room above the laundromat. Back then, I thought I would scream. I thought I would list every insult, every unpaid bill, every time they chose Vanessa over me. But when the moment finally came, I felt strangely calm. I didn't open the gate. I pressed the speaker button. "Yes," I said. "It's mine." Vanessa let out a broken laugh. "How? How do you have this?" My mother stepped closer to the camera. Her face looked older than I remembered. "Natalie, sweetheart, open the gate. We just want to talk." Sweetheart. That word almost made me smile. 5 years ago, I was wasting space. Now I was sweetheart. "There's nothing to talk about," I said. My mother's voice softened. "Please. We were just driving by. We didn't know you lived here." Vanessa wiped her face angrily. "Mom, this is insane. She has a beachfront villa, and I lost everything. How does she get everything?" There it was. Not congratulations. Not regret. Not even curiosity about how I had survived. Just resentment. My mother gave Vanessa a warning look, then turned back to the speaker. "Your sister has been through a hard time. The business failed. Your father's health isn't good. We're trying to rebuild, as a family." I looked through the gate at them. The same 2 women who had watched me walk out with 2 bags and said nothing. "I'm sorry Dad isn't well," I said. "But I'm not your solution." My mother's eyes filled with tears. "Natalie, don't be cruel." Cruel. That word landed, but it didn't enter me. I had learned something over those 5 years. People who break your heart often call your boundaries cruelty when they can no longer benefit from your silence. "I'm not being cruel," I said. "I'm being honest." Vanessa stepped forward. "You know, if you had helped me back then, maybe my business wouldn't have failed." I actually laughed once, quietly. "You were given $1 million, Vanessa." I was given a sentence at the front door. My mother flinched. I continued, my voice steady. "I paid bills in that house. I bought groceries. I picked up medicine. I cooked, cleaned, handled repairs, and stayed after Dad's surgery because you asked me to. And the night Vanessa got everything, you told me I was wasting space." My mother started crying harder. "I didn't mean it like that." "Yes," I said. "You did. You meant every word. You just didn't expect me to remember." For the first time, she had no answer. Vanessa crossed her arms. "So what? You're just going to stand behind your fancy gate and act better than us?" "No," I said. "I'm going to stand behind a gate I paid for and protect the peace I built." My mother whispered, "We're still your family." I looked at her for a long moment. Family doesn't throw you away when you're struggling and come back when they see your name on a gate. The silence after that was heavier than any argument. My mother looked down. Vanessa looked away. For 1 second, I saw the truth settle over them. They had not come because they missed me. They had come because they finally saw value where they once saw a burden. "I hope Dad gets better," I said. "I hope Vanessa finds a way to rebuild. But it won't be with my money, my house, or my peace." Then I released the speaker button. My mother called my name once. I didn't answer. I walked back upstairs, opened the balcony door, and stepped into the ocean air. Behind me, their car sat outside for another minute before slowly driving away. I watched until it disappeared around the curve. There was no dramatic music, no shouting, no perfect apology. Just the sound of waves hitting the shore and my own breathing finally feeling light. 5 years ago, my mother said I was wasting space. Now I own my space. And for the first time in my life, no one was allowed to take it from me.